Aloha and welcome to today's DRIP committee meeting for June 17th. The time is now 3:05 p.m. and if everyone can please silence their cell phones or other noise-making devices, we're coming to order. Members, in accordance with the Sunshine Law, if you're not in the council chamber, please identify by name who, if anyone, is in the room, vehicle, or workspace with you today. Minors do not need to be identified. Also, please see the last page of the agenda for information on meeting connectivity. My name is Tamara Paulton, and I will be the chair for today's DRIP committee meeting. With us, we have Vice Chair Nohe U'u Hodgins. Sup, Bule.
Sup, Bule? I'm here.
Next up, we have I guess Member Cook is
Sawadi.
not here for now. And next up, we have Council Member Gabe Johnson, Sawadi, and Sapbule. Can the people online hear us? Member Johnson, can you hear us? Member Johnson, can you hear us?
Loud and clear.
Sup, Bule? Are you alone in your workspace?
Yes, I'm alone in my workspace. Were you asking?
I was,
Did we gavel in?
yeah, I guess, do you want
I
us
just
to,
now heard you say that.
do you want us to
So-
re-say all the things? Or,
No, I'm sorry, I didn't even hear you. I didn't hear nothing until you just asked me. So no one's here and I'm alone in my workspace and there's no testifiers at the Lanai District Office. Thank you.
thank you. Next up, we have Council Member Tasha Kama, Sawadi, and Sapule.
Sawadi and Safuli to you, Chair. I am home alone in my workspace, and I'm ready to pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We're on the referring to Planning Commission stage still yet, but
Yeah, there
we
is
hope we can do that today. Next up, we have Council Chair Alice Lee, Sawadi, and Sapbule.
Sawadi Sapbulala.
Next up, we got Councilmember Kiani Rollins Fernandez, who will probably joining us shortly. And we have Councilmember Shane Sinensi, Sawadi, and Sapbule.
Aloha Chair, Sawadi, and Sapule to everyone. No testifiers in Hana.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Councilmember Yukile Sugimura, Sawadi, and Sapbule.
Sawadi Sapbule to you.
Thank you. This meeting of the Disaster Recovery, International Affairs, and Planning Committee of the Maui County Council is located on the traditional Aina of Kanaka Oiwi, who never ceded their sovereignty to the United States. We recognize that Her Majesty Queen Liliuokalani yielded the Hawaiian Kingdom to the U.S. in duress under threat of violence to avoid the bloodshed of her people. We further recognize that Hawaii remains an illegally occupied nation state by the U.S. as documented in a 2021 scholarly article for the National Lawyers Guild Review by Andrew Reed, adjunct professor of law at the University of Denver Sturm College of Law. Generations of Kanaka Maoli and their knowledge systems have sustainably cared for Hawaii and continue to do so. We are grateful to occupy this space and learn the ways in which we can contribute. As a committee, we seek to support the varied strategies that the indigenous people of Hawaii are using to protect their land and their communities and commit to dedicating time and resources to working in solidarity. At this time, I would like to recognize that Councilmember Tom Cook has joined us in the meeting. Sawadi and Sapbule.
Saladi and aloha afternoon.
With us from the administration, we have Deputy Corporation Counsel Mike Hopper, Administrative Planning Officer from the Department of Planning Greg Post, Department of Public Works Director Jordan Molina, and Cynthia Lalo, Chief of Staff / Energy Commissioner, Office of the Mayor. Other resources, we have Mr. Rob Weltman, Director of Hawaii Electric Vehicle Association. Members, without objection, I would like to designate Mr. Weltman as a resource person under Rule 18A of the Rules of the Council due to his knowledge and expertise in renewable energy and as a member of the Maui Nui EV Association.
No objections.
Thank you, members. Our committee staff today, we have Senior Committee Secretary Yvette Boutillier, Legislative Analyst Pascual and Keone Hurdle, as well as Legislative Attorney Carla Nakata and Assistant Clerk Jean Pokipala. On the agenda, we have one item for DRIP 7, Resolution 23-163 relating to parking for electric vehicles. We will take testimony after any opening remarks or presentations. For DRIP 7, the committee is in receipt of Resolution 23-163 entitled Referring to the Planning Commission's a Proposed Bill Relating to Parking for Electric Vehicles. The purpose is to refer to the Planning Commission's a proposed bill entitled A Bill for an Ordinance Amending Section 19.36B.020 Maui County Code relating to parking for electric vehicles for their findings and recommendations. The proposed bill's purpose is to require places of public accommodation with at least 50 parking spaces to have at least 2 parking spaces designated for electric vehicles and to require an additional 2 parking spaces designated for electric vehicles for each additional increment of 50 parking spaces. An amendment summary form dated June 10th, 2025 from the committee chair with the proposed CD1 version of the reso amends the resolution title, amends the proposed bill's title, amends the proposed bill preamble to insert additional information on the bill's purpose, applies to the following requirements to newly constructed places of public accommodation outside of the erosion hazard line with at least 50 parking spaces. A, at least 2 parking spaces must be designated for electric vehicles and be equipped with an electric vehicle charging system. B, for each additional increment of 50 parking spaces, at least 2 additional parking spaces must be designated for electric vehicles and be equipped with an electric vehicle charging system, and it must be in working order. It inserts definitions for electric vehicle charging system and places of public accommodation, clarifies that if any of the new subsections provisions conflict with the requirement under Title 16's Energy Code, the stricter requirement prevails. It incorporates technical and non-substantive revisions for clarity, consistency, and style. And members, that is number 8 on your Granicus. Number 10 is pretty much exactly the same except for it's signed by council for form and legality. The committee may consider whether to recommend adoption of Resolution 23-163 with or without revisions. The committee may also consider the filing and other related action. That being said, I'll go to Mr. Post first if he has any opening comments before we take testimony.
Ms. Mahalo, Chair, thank you for the opportunity to address the committee today. I just had a couple of just very minor items, or relatively minor items. I did notice in looking at the amendment summary form, Granicus number 10, on page 6 of the ordinance, I think it was just a minor change in that it should read under mobile food truck, none, period. And then it should read, mobile food truck shall not occupy any parking space required by this title. So I think that was the intent. It was just a minor revision, I think, in the amendment summary form that needs to be changed. And then secondly, I just wanted to acknowledge that, there are some differences between what's being proposed here in Title 19 and what is in Title 16. Title 16 is at least how it relates to commercial development, and Title 16 is a little bit more restrictive. I don't see that as a problem because the statement is inserted in there that the more restrictive requirement will apply. But I just know it might be a little bit confusing sometimes for developers that are proposing large commercial developments that are over 50 parking spaces. So I just wanted to point that issue out. But beyond that, I don't have any other further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to Mr. Weltman if he has any opening comments. You just muted your camera. I'm not sure if you're speaking, Mr. Weltman.
Chair, I think he accidentally dropped from the meeting.
Oh, shoot.
Perhaps we can go to our other resources for comments or opening remarks.
Sure. Until Mr. Weltman comes back on, is Cynthia Lalo on the call?
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, committee. I have no opening comments, but I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Let's see. Oh, we have Mr. Weltman. Any opening comments once you unmute?
Mr. Weltman, if you joined on your web browser, you may want to go to the top right corner. There should be a microphone icon that you can click to unmute yourself. And if you're unable to do that, I can provide the login information to join from your phone. So, Mr. Weltman, if you want to dial in from your phone, the number is 1-808-977-4067. And then the meeting code is 607-929-65 #.
Did he drop from the call again?
Chair does look like he dropped from the call.
Okay. Members, are you okay to get his opening comments if there are any after public testimony? Okay. Let's see. Is Director Molina on, and do you have any opening comments if you are on?
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Joining the Director of Public Works. My only comment is we prefer these standards in Title 19 as it regulates electrical vehicle parking requirements. Just to, one, we should reconcile between the two so there's clarity to property owners on their requirements. And this is more appropriate as a land use regulation than as a health and safety matter. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hopper, do you have any clarification? Opening comments?
Hi, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I think what my suggestion, one is, again, we approved the resolution as to form and legality. We haven't completed review of the bill. So the resolution's ready to go and it can go to the commission. They may have, the commissions may have additional comments, but a couple of things. One is that there's a state law provision that allows an owner to sort of allocate their spaces among other, if they've got multiple locations in the state, they may be able to locate them in different areas. So I don't know if we would be looking at some potential preemption issues with this requirement if if that's fulfilled, if the state law allows that to be used to fulfill the requirement, we would have to look at that. And the other issue is that I think it's generally not best practices to put in the actual codified language of an ordinance references to new, so-called new parking lots for new, I think, I'm trying to find where we're talking about, but we're talking about, if you're talking about new only, you may want to include that in the effective date section, or the section at the end of the ordinance, section 3, or section 4, this ordinance takes effect upon approval. If it's going to apply to new or existing, we can clarify that. And if the intent is new, we would perhaps want to put that in section 4 to say ordinances that are, or I'm sorry, facilities that were either permitted after the effective date of the ordinance or some other language that this applies to those facilities. So I think clarification could be done in there rather than in the ordinance, because the ordinance could be amended multiple times, and a reference to new in the ordinance may be confusing in those situations. So that would be, I think, my initial comments on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Hopper. I think Rob has joined. Is he unable to speak?
Yes, Chair. He's unmuted on our end, and it looks like he's unmuted himself, so he should be able to speak.
Hello, I'm Mike Alcohol. Sorry about that. I tried to join with the browser, but it doesn't let me enable the microphone. When I tried to use the app, it required me to upgrade it. So it took a while.
No worries,
Anyway,
we can hear you
I'm very
now.
happy to
Thank
see
you.
this bill moving forward after 3 years, and very timely too, in a sense, because as Maui is being built, as West Side is being rebuilt, the Hines is being rebuilt, it can be made more friendly to people to use their EVs. So I'm glad to see this moving forward. There are a few minor things that are in the original bill from 3 years ago. They're not in this one. Things like ensuring a handicap parking space among the EV parking spaces, and a couple other things like that. But I think the main thing is to get this one moving through, and it can always be improved later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weltman. At this time, we will move on to public testimony for DRIP 7. Written testimony is encouraged and can be submitted via the e-comment link at mauicounty.us/agendas. Testifiers wanting to provide oral testimony should join the online meeting via the Microsoft Teams link printed on today's agenda, or call into the phone number which is also on today's agenda. For individuals wishing to testify via Teams, please raise your hand by clicking the raise your hand button near the top right of your screen. For those calling in, please follow the prompts via phone. Staff will add names to the testifier list in the order testifiers sign up or raise their hands. For those on Teams, staff will lower your hand once your name is added. Staff will then call the name you're logged in under or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your time to testify. At that time, staff will enable your microphone and video. Please ensure your name on Microsoft Teams appears as the name you prefer to be referred to as an anonymous. If you wish to testify anonymously. If you are in person, please notify staff that you would like to testify anonymously. Otherwise, please state your name for the record at the beginning of your testimony. Oral testimony is limited to 3 minutes. If you are still testifying beyond that time, I will kindly ask you to complete your testimony. Once you're done testifying, or if you do not wish to testify, you can view the meeting on Akaku, Channel 53, Facebook Live, or mauicounty.us/agendas. At this time, we will call on testifiers wishing to testify on DRIP 7. Go ahead, staff.
Chair, there are no individuals signed up to testify, but I see Mr. J.C. Law at the podium, ready to go.
Thank you, brother. Aloha, Avakea, Luna Ho'omolu Paulton. Thank you. I scanned over the resolution, and it looks like you did a lot of work on this one. I am in favor of electric cars. I'm pretty sure they're better for the environment than gasoline cars. And I realize this is related to parking for electric vehicles, but if you'll give me a little bit of leeway on history lesson. June 17, 1930, can anybody tell me what is important about that day? And it relates also to the events of this year with the U.S. presidency and the executive branch over there, and all them guys over there. The Hawley-Smoot tariff, does that ring a bell with anybody? It was a protectionist trade measure passed by the U.S. Congress, significantly raised tariffs on thousands of imported goods, aiming to protect American industries and farmers from foreign competition during the Great Depression. However, the act triggered retaliatory tariffs from other countries, leading to sharp decline in global trade and worsening the economic crisis. So I've been trying to figure out this whole United States thing and the Hawaii and the Kingdom of Hawaii thing, so I appreciate that you keep repeating the comments at the beginning of this committee. And how about I throw this one out there, that Hawaii puts a tariff on all electric vehicles from the United States.
Thank you, members. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Ready for the next testifier?
Yes, Chair, the Royal House of Hawaii has indicated that they wish to testify.
Thank you. The Royal House of Hawaii, it's your turn to testify. The agenda item is on parking for electric vehicles. Please keep the testimony tight to parking for electric vehicles. Go ahead.
Aloha, as an Olodio land tenant and a descendant of Hewa Hewa Nui, Helu 3237 Apanatu, on the vehicles, in the I don't know, like I have a few questions actually, I'd say, but like it's like, are those all valid to be running in Hawaii and everything like that? And were there any discussions or were the descendants of the royal patents and allodial lands contacted and contacted for all of this to be running and everything like that in Hawaii? Even with like the travel, even with traveling and also like, for example, like tourism and like the airplane, even not only cars, I'd say, but yeah, like yeah, there should be a tariff because the person that testified before me, he is correct. There actually is supposed to be a tariff on like a lot of things, and only even like also officers are only supposed to be seizing foreign things and not even visit the canoes and all of that. It's in, I forgot what page it is exactly, but he is correct. And yeah, I don't know. Even with our treaties with outside countries for things to come in to Hawaii, is are those things being respected still today? And can we still have it fixed and be respected to us, like, and be a global friend with everybody? Because we're a really friendly nation, and we just, the only thing bad here is the military. Anyway, it's going off topic, but yeah, that's all I have to testify about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, members. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you so much for your testimony. Next testifier.
Chair will do a last call for oral testimony. If there's anyone else who would like to testify, please come up to the podium or raise your hand on Teams. The countdown is 3, 2, 1. Seeing none, Chair, no one has indicated that they wish to testify.
Thank you, members. Without objection, I will now close public testimony. Thank you. I would like to open the floor for discussion. I propose as much time and rounds as you folks need. And once the discussion is exhausted, I would entertain a motion to recommend adoption of Resolution 23-163 and then substitute it with the attachment on Granicus 10. So I'll start with my committee vice chair, Nohe U'u-Hodgins, and then probably move down this way and then come around back to Member Sinensi.
Thank you, Chair. I know this is the third time, I think, yeah, we're working on this reso. Can you remind me if it does combine Chapter 16 and Chapter 19, and then it just says whatever language is stricter?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily combine it. We went with the whatever language is stricter would apply. Chapter 16, I think, is not necessarily geared towards public parking lots or something. Staff, did you?
Thank you, Chair. If my understanding is correct, and I'll defer to Ms. Nakata as well, but I think in Title 16, the EV parking requirements apply to commercial developments or retail stores, as well as multifamily developments. Thank you.
Okay, so then that this will apply to single-family homes, I guess, is the only difference?
No, not to single-family homes. It's for public parking lots.
Yeah, we had this discussion, and I found it curious how we separate it. Because Public Works doesn't do the LPAP, so they don't really have a handle in what parking stalls get approved. I think that's where my confusion was. I guess my question is for Gregory then, Mr. Post. How come we just didn't stick with one language? Why do we have two different codes for parking? For EV. I know your department implements Chapter 19, Public Works implements Chapter 16, and to Director Molina's point, it does kind of cause a little bit of confusion. I'm happy to support this so long as that it just makes sense for somebody who's coming in and applying for a permit with a parking lot requirement.
Chair, would you like me to answer that question?
I'd love for you to answer that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yeah, Title 16, the part in the energy code, when that was written, I don't have the exact date, but that was written a while ago. And I have a feeling, and Mr. Weltman might have a better opinion about this, but I think it was written because it does include some provisions within it that talk a little bit more towards electrical code or energy code type things as far as how these charging stations are rated. And so those kind of requirements, I think, in my personal opinion, do belong somewhat in the building code, because then planners aren't really good at implementing those kind of technical requirements that are within Title 16. However, I think Mr. Molina, Director Molina, makes a good point in that what the planning department does usually implement is parking spaces and the number of parking spaces that are required per type of use and so forth. And so it's kind of interesting. Title 16 has this section that actually indicates how many EV parking spaces are required, while this section also in Title 19 does the same thing. Title 16 is actually more restrictive as it relates to multifamily housing and commercial development in the number of EV parking spaces required and EV capable ready spaces required. What this does, though, in Title 19 is it does provide a more broader term called place of public accommodation, in that any place of public accommodation, and it refers to Hawaii revised statutes as the definition for place of public accommodation. And it's a very broad term that captures a lot of different types of parking lots, more than just commercial, and it includes, parks and things like that. So it's a much broader range of parking lots that are in the Title 19, and Title 16 is only focused on commercial and multifamily. And again, as I mentioned, Title 16 is more restrictive. I don't think it would be a problem to combine the two into Title 19, but there are some provisions in the Title 16 version that are more technical, related to electrical requirements for EV charging stations that should probably stay in Title 16. So it is a little bit confusing. I think having the statement in there that the more restrictive applies helps to address that confusion. So a developer, a commercial developer, would see this in Title 19, would have to go to Title 16 to see what the restrictive requirements are. But then again, it may be beneficial also to combine the two to some way. I hope that helps.
It does. I just have one clarifying question. So by and large, if you were to separate, I guess, types of parking, or really types of building, it would be commercial or housing. And multifamily is typically seen as somewhat commercial. And therefore, when you have something like commercial and multifamily, what is then the leftover types of development that isn't characterized under Chapter 16, isn't implemented under Chapter 16?
Like recreational, stadiums or something like that, or swimming pools?
I guess, but those are then public, and where does that fall in? So there is recreation, but even that is sometimes considered commercial.
So that's the place of public accommodation portion.
Okay.
But I did see our resource, Mr. Weltman, had his hand raised.
Okay.
Did you want to hear from him as well?
Yeah, please. And then I know I heard my bell ring, but sorry.
Oh, no. Is Mr. Weltman able to answer? Okay.
Yeah, so to me, the difference is like between the parking lot in front of the county building and the parking lot underneath it. One of them is for the employees, and you typically have different expectations, and you design it in a different way. And for the employees who are coming every day, and it may need to be there from 9 in the morning until late in the afternoon. Whereas the one you wouldn't want to combine the requirements of those two. So that's the difference between a public accommodation and the private. This public one is for things like people are coming to shop, or people are coming to go to the beach, or coming to watch a county meeting, as opposed to the employees. That's pretty much the difference.
Okay, I hear you. I'll save my next question, but I do have a question on how this will be implemented. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Cook, your opportunity.
Thank you, Chair. As a owner and driver of an electric vehicle, I think that this is, I'm supportive. I think it's needed. As a contractor, I'm not going to make a proposal because this is kind of like aggressive. I would, the cost of the installation and the maintenance of the actual charging unit itself as compared to putting in the ductwork for multiple charging units. So I would advocate putting in, like, actually putting one in for 50 stalls and then giving them a bonus that if they'll put them in, like two for every 25 stalls, that they only have to do one, they only have to do the initial one if they're gonna have a bunch of extra ones. My justification is in the future, we're gonna need it a lot. And they would be able to put it in an old parking lot that had the infrastructure. They would plop in a brand new charging facility that isn't antiquated because they didn't put it in 8 years ago. But it's kind of complicated. I am supportive of the bill, and I do think we need it, but digging up parking lots in the future makes it a compoundedly more expensive endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this applies to parking lots going forward, not.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
exactly. I'm saying if we're building new parking lots now, redoing Kahumanu Shopping Center, redoing other areas, being more progressive and encouraging for them to not just do one for every 50.
Make an incentive so that if they're gonna redo their parking lot, they already
Yeah,
met their.
like putting in the infrastructure for these things in the future and enabling them to put in the chargers as needed. Also, that would enable someone to be in the charging business. Somebody else beside the owner would put in the charger, they would charge them, but the ductwork's already there.
Sounds like you're talking about EV charging system credits.
They're kinda, I don't know. Anyway, thank you for bringing this forward. I am supportive and I don't really have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Charlie, your opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have the same concerns as Mr. Cook. I've run into situations where people have complained about requirements, but not having the requirements, but not the equipment to install. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place, and that's why I'm hoping that this will be not retroactive, and that whatever is in place now can be addressed by whether it's the county or the electric company. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. And then I see Member Kama is Member John, no. Oh, sorry, Member Johnson. Member Lee was in your seat, so I skipped you, and now it's you. Go ahead, Member Johnson.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay. Yeah, so thank you, everybody, for this, for your presentations and all the information you have. Of course, I support this idea and making 50 spots for every an EV for every 50 is a great idea. I'm curious how that affects the county. I think of several public, if we build like a stadium was Maui Memorial, those are existing, but new ones, I'm curious, who departments does that fall under? Parks, if they own it, or is it going to be in Public Works? Who would kind of oversee it, or even planning? I'm curious of where it would go.
I think that sounds a little bit like a question for Ms. Lalo, possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that question. A really good one. Right now, the EV charging stations that the county currently has sits in the mayor's office, as you know, right? And under that energy energy section, right? But because energy and charging and all of that is such a longitudinal project, we are suggesting that the Department of Management take that so there's continuity and consistency between administrations. Like I said, we have that now, but looking to change things up in the future.
Yeah, I like that idea. Thank you, Ms. Lalo. So if it is there, and we do own some, this is probably a question down the road, but I'm curious of how, like, when this rolls out, are we always going to use the same vendors? Are there going to be universal EVs? Is it going to be a subscription? I mean, I got all these questions of like how we're going to actually roll it out and administer it. So maybe you don't know that just yet, but I'm curious of the fact that we do own some, lessons learned moving forward, that kind of thing is where my questions are leading to, Ms. Lalo.
Sure. Thank you for that question. So right now, our vendor is OATI, and those charging stations, whether they're 120 volt or 240 volt, range between $18,000 and $25,000 for installation, depending on the infrastructure that is in place at that point. If we were to decide to increase, I would assume that the procurement, regulations would allow us to go out to RFP for that.
Okay, you're going to put it out to bid then. Great. All right, well, those are my questions. Thank you so much for responding. Thank you, Chair. No further at this time.
Thank you. And the next person I see present is Member Kama for your opportunity.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I think the only concern I had was that, when we send it to the Planning Commission for their consideration, that at least we make mention of, there are different types of charging stations, right? There's the charging stations that can charge really fast, and then there are charging stations that take a little while, like 30 minutes, for you to charge up your vehicle. And if they would make a recommendation as to having those charging stations, and would they be the fast ones or would they be the slow ones? Because, if you're parking in your home, I guess it doesn't matter. But I think if you're at a shopping center and you're going to do some shopping for half an hour, you'd want to get in and get out for other people, because 2 parking spaces per 50, that's what we're looking at right now. But as we move on into the future, you're going to see more people purchasing electric cars. Therefore, we're going to probably need more charging stations. Because the places already where people are living, and if they're in an apartment building and they have all these spaces, this might not affect these buildings because they're already existent. But in the future, where do people who buy a vehicle and they don't live across from the shopping center, or they don't live any place close to a charging station? I live in Kahului, but the closest station is the mall. Then take your car, park across the street, and then the next one after that is the one in Kahului. But I think I just want to bring it to their attention, Chair, that when the Planning Commissions take a look at that they would consider the types of electric charging stations, and maybe as time goes by. Also, would this in future developments increase the cost of the housing development because they have to put these in? But that's my only question, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, this one I don't think applies to housing development as much as what had already been passed in Chapter 16. This is more like places of public accommodation. So I think mostly, the county has those recreational, it's almost like we're doing it on ourselves, and then commercial areas too, which would be more restrictive via Title 16, if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
And I do see Mr. Weltman has his hand up if you wanted to hear from him as well.
Yes, I would. Thank you so much, Mr. Weltman.
Yes, so that is another one of the differences between this version of the bill and the one from 3 years ago. The one from 3 years ago spelled out the type of charging equipment. There was level 1, level 2, level 3, and it said that you could have 2 of these level 2s, or you could have 1 level 3 instead, that kind of thing. The new one is much simpler. The new bill is much simpler. It just refers to definition of charging station in Section 16. So I think that's actually an improvement. It's kind of awkward to have those definitions in more than one place. So I'm fine with that anyway.
Thank you. Is that
Thank you,
satisfy
Chair.
your answer, Member Kama?
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Member Sinensi, your opportunity.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Wiltman mentioned some of the changes that he didn't see in this current bill about ADA. If he can I expound on that, his comments?
Mr. Weltman, Member Sinensi is asking if you could expound on your comments on the ADA and their absence from this bill, if you had.
Okay. Yeah, let me see. The bill, and this was 22-223, 3 years ago, it says, at least one of the parking spaces designated for electric vehicles must be an accessible stall as defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act and must not displace or reduce other accessible stalls required by the Americans with Disabilities Act. So again, I think that's a good thing, but I think that the attempt has been made on this version of the bill to keep it very simple, and that's probably why it's not included there.
Looks like that was under F.
Yes,
under
that's right.
F of 19.36B.150. Okay. I see it in Chair, your version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I missed it in the new one then.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Thank you. For my opportunity, I just wanted to ask Mr. Weltman, I don't know if you had heard, but when you were enabling your camera and microphone for Mr. Hopper's opening comments, he mentioned about the state, kind of some people call it a loophole, that like big chains or places can designate and put all their EV parking on one particular island or something like that. Is your association joining with others throughout the state to kind of close that loophole or anything?
Yes, we are. Every year we've been trying to, we've had a bill in the, at the state level to try and correct that, but it hasn't passed so far. So I think 3 years we tried to correct that, past 3 years.
Okay.
I don't think, I've never heard any opposition to it. It's just that there's so many bills, the vast majority of bills die before they get adopted.
Okay, maybe in the upcoming one, if members would like, we can try and do something as part of our HSAC package, or we can work together. If you know where it hanged up on, because I wouldn't like all our EV chargers to end up on Oahu. We'd like some of our EV chargers here, like, you know, for those places, I don't know, Target on each island or whatever. But we can talk about that offline. I think being able to pass that at the state level may make this be more effective over here. I'm not sure exactly the concerns about preemption, but we can continue to work on that together. Go ahead.
This proposed strip 7 is for new construction. And so it totally covers and eliminates the need for the state bill for all new construction. The advantage of making that change that you just mentioned is it would apply to existing large parking lots. At least they'd have one charging station for 100, so it's better than nothing. So it's worth changing it for that. But for all new construction, the county proposed bill is way, way better than the state one.
Thank you. Okay. Member U'u Hodgins?
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask Mr. Post a question? Where did
Sure.
he go?
Mr. Post, are you still available?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Post. I want to discuss implementation. Now, I know this is a resolution to send to Planning Commission. It's going to come back to us, but just so I can wrap my head around it. Let's say hypothetically we take Kahumanu Mall, and I know the malls, unless things have changed, I think are one parking space for 300 square feet. But when I've done LPAPs, I didn't specify a certain area for employees only, not to, like how the county was described, which is completely accurate. We park on the bottom, the public parks on top. But how would that work when you review a permit, let's say the shopping mall that's going to now have a section for homes in the future, hypothetically? Would we be carving out a space for employees and then having another space for patrons? And then would they have different numbers for their EV requirements?
Thank you for the question. The way that we review parking requirements is just strictly based upon the code. So we would not require separate areas for employee parking. Now, if a developer wanted to provide separate areas for parking for employees only, then we would just still use the same calculation, or if the developer was proposing something different, then we would have to evaluate that. But we basically take all of the uses within a site, and we assign a parking requirement for that amount of use, right? It's per square footage.
Yep.
And then that would be based, then we would, and it's pretty simple calculation, how much you're building, and this is based on the use.
It is simple now for a mall, now that you guys went all 300. Before, I had to carve out what was retail, what was restaurant, and what was office space. That wasn't fun. But now it's easier.
No.
But, so my question is more, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna differentiate between what is for considered private area for employees and what is for the general public? Because it sounds like they're gonna have different codes, different requirements.
Well, I think it would all, it's a good question. I think it's actually going to be a little bit different when you include the multifamily housing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the multifamily housing under Title 16 has a separate requirement than commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Title 16 and Title 19, commercial's all treated the same for the most part, at least for a large, I'm looking at that, for a large establishment that you're talking about at the mall. At 1 per 300. And if you get into some smaller size, we tend to then look at how much retail, how much restaurant, because restaurants had a different calculation, right?
Yep, 3 for a kitchen and 1 for 100 square feet.
Exactly. So we would come up with your parking requirement, and then for a commercial center with a mix of retail and restaurant, then we find out how many number of parking spaces you have. It's all under commercial. So then we would assign the EV parking requirement per the total number of parking spaces you have. Whether or not the developer decides to section off some of these spaces for employee into another area further away from the retail establishment, is usually what they do, it would still be the entire number of parking spaces that we would require. Does that make sense? It's just one calculation.
It is one calculation, but we were just discussing how a private parking lot area would have different code requirements from a public parking lot area. So we're just gonna go with whatever is stricter in that point, and we'll just have a whole bunch of EV chargers in that area for everybody.
That is correct.
We're just gonna blanket.
It's the interpretation that I review in Title 16 and Title 19, it doesn't distinguish between private areas or public areas. It's just all parking requirements. And so the way that I review the 16 and 19 is you would take the total number of parking spaces, and that is how you assign the number of EV spaces. And if the property owner wants to segment some of those spaces as employee parking only, that's fine, but we would still require EV parking spaces. Now, that's my interpretation. I don't know, Mr. Wellman or maybe Director Molina has a different interpretation, but that's the way I was reading both Title 16 and Title 19.
Okay, thank you. I, if you don't mind, Chair, can Director Molina answer my question? I'm just curious how this will be implemented.
Director Molina, did you hear the question?
Not exactly, but I think I have a response to it. Title 16 and Title 19 are 2 different requirements, so both are going to apply in all cases. 19 requires chargers in place operational. 16 requires this readiness component. So any property is going to be subject to both. requirements. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Thank you.
19 requires chargers in place that are operational. 16 requires the infrastructure.
The drafters of this code use these terms: electric vehicle charger ready and electrical vehicle capable. And so those are the standards that got to be achieved under 16. From what I read with the 19 one, you got to have the charger in place operational. So
Okay.
It's entirely two different requirements affecting the same subject matter of EV parking stalls. Thank you.
It's opaque as mud. Thanks, Chair. I appreciate your answer. Thanks.
Thank you. And a reminder that the Title 16 one was passed by our former council member. And I'll go by raise of hands. Member Uu Hodgins had indicated that she had another question, so that's why I went to her. But if anyone has any further questions, I'll go by hand raise. I don't see anyone raising their hand, so at this time, I will entertain a motion to recommend adoption of Resolution 23-163.
So move. Second.
Second.
By Member Uu Hodgins, seconded by Member Sinensi. The chair will entertain a motion to substitute Resolution 23-163 with the proposed CD1 version attached to the amendments or reform dated June 13th, 2025, listed on Granicus as attachment number 10. It's been moved by Member Kama and seconded by Member Uu Hodgins. At this time, I will entertain the suggestion by Mr. Post to, on page 6, under the mobile food truck, to amend the substitution to put none, period, before no mobile food trucks will be allowed to occupy any parking space required by this title. Moved by Member Kama and seconded by Member Sinensi. So we'll vote on that amendment to the substitution first. Any discussion? This was an amendment caught by Mr. Post as to, what it should say. Seeing no discussion. At this time, before I call for the vote, I'd like to recognize Member Rollins Fernandez, Sawadi, and Sapbule.
Sapbule. Oh, okay. Aloha uinala, Chair. E kalamai for my tardiness. The person flying over here to meet with me was delayed, moku dilele, by about 2 hours. We're supposed to meet during lunch, so my apologies.
No worries. And then at this time...
I am alone in my workspace.
Perfect.
Sorry, forgot that part.
Member Sugimura has rejoined us as well. So we're going to vote on adding the word none, period, before no mobile food trucks on page 6 of Granicus number 10, which is the substitution. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Chair, I see 9 ayes, 0 noes, motion passes. So you're now back to the motion to substitute as amended.
Thank you. And then I think Mr. Hopper had a suggestion in section 4. His suggestion was to say this ordinance takes effect on facilities permitted after the approval of this ordinance. Is that correct, Mr. Hopper?
I was just emailing back and forth with Ms. Nakata, and I'm not saying you need to arrive at this precise language now, but you may want to consider how you want to treat facilities. Like if someone has a permit application that's submitted for a facility before the effective date, depending on where it is in process, I don't know how difficult it is to add those vehicles or anything like that. So I would just consider, rather than saying newly constructed, put a date in there where you say either you receive your permit before this ordinance is effective, or perhaps if you apply for it, then the ordinance wouldn't apply to you. So, it's sort of up to the committee, but I would put that language there. So if, it depends on what you want. If you want it to say, if you got a permit before this, then it doesn't apply to you. If you want to have it be, if you've submitted an application prior to this, it doesn't apply to you. You could have it apply if someone submitted an application, but that's sort of up to you. So I think we can work out the language. You may want to specify as a committee what you mean by newly constructed facility. So if someone has a permit issued, or you've got an application in, if either of those things are sort of key dates.
Thank you, Mr. Hopper. Members, and in terms of legislative intent and not specific verbiage, would you like this to apply to those applying for permits after the legislation takes effect, or to apply as soon as the legislation is approved? Any preferences from the members? Member Hodgins.
I would like to do it after, so planning department can figure out how it's going to be implemented. I think there might be a little bit of kinks to work out depending on what planning commission says, and then the discussion we're going to have after they have their discussion. But that's just my preference.
Okay, I did see also Member Johnson's hand up. Is that correct?
Yeah, Chair, same reasons. Thank you.
Same argument, same reasons. Okay. Does anyone have anything different amongst the members? We're in agreement. Okay, so our legislative intent in the verbiage sent is that this would apply to facilities permitted after the approval of this ordinance. And if you can pretty that up for us with legalese words, that would be awesome. Do we need to vote on that legislative intent? For a lawyer.
Sorry, Chair, I think we can wordsmith it after, but if you wouldn't mind, yes, voting on the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, so is everyone okay with the legislative intent? Would it be a motion, Ms. Nakata?
Yes, Chair, I believe a motion to amend to amend the effective date of the ordinance consistent with the body's intent that it apply to facilities permitted after the approval of this ordinance. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, it's been moved by Member Hodgins and seconded by Chair Lee. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Chair, 9 ayes, 0 noes, motion passes, and you're back to the motion to substitute as amended.
Thank you. We're back to the motion to substitute as amended. Is there any discussion on the substituted amended motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to substitute with the substituted amended motion, raise your hand and say aye.
Chair, 9 ayes, 0 noes, motion passes, and you're back to the main motion as amended.
Main motion as amended and substituted. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Chair, 9 ayes, 0 noes, motion passes.
Oh, yay. This concludes today's Disaster Recovery, International Affairs, and Planning Committee meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. Third time's a charm. The time is now 4:04. This meeting is adjourned. Sup, bully?